Hello, happy Saturday. If you are here with me right now, give me a thumbs up in the chat that you can hear me. This is a re-record from my original recording for this full moon in Pisces oracle reading. So here we are once again. I did a whole 40-minute reading. It was absolutely beautiful and profound, and Mercury decided that it just was not going to allow me to have a voice that day. So interesting, as I have been experiencing a lot of clearing my throat. So all that to be said, what I did was, rather than just doing a whole nother read, I laid the cards out exactly as they were before, and I'm just going to allow Spirit to offer all of the medicine, all of the information that's relevant to the original reading, and to the energy that is here with us for this full moon in Pisces. Excuse me, I'm going to be doing this clearing with my voice. So just taking a moment to call forth the highest wisdom of truth, the highest light, the highest vibrations of loving wisdom and creative intelligence here into the space, that I may be used as a channel for transmissions of those energies of truth, the messages of truth, of healing and wisdom that help us with best utilizing the energy of this full moon lunation. So it is, so be it. So some of the things I was speaking on about this full moon is that it's in the sign of Pisces, which is a water sign. It is very, very sensitive, very emotional. It is the sign that it's the bleeding heart. It's always wants to step up for the little guy, and it really has an incredible capacity to hold compassionate space. So maybe that's been present for you. Maybe you found yourself more sensitive, and in this moment, the wisdom that I'm receiving in that is to see how valuable that level of compassion and sensitivity is, and to not take that for granted, and maybe ask yourself where you can deposit more of that in your own life, for yourself, for your loved ones, for the world, and for strangers. So working with water right now is it's a very powerful element that can help heal, change, and wash away. This is a blue moon that we have just experienced, and that is a very rare event. It happens, or it becomes a blue moon when it happens twice within the month, and that doesn't happen very often. So with this blue moon, there's also a conjunction with the planet Saturn. Saturn is the lord of karma. There is opportunities to completely let go. So it's like we've gone through these layers of peeling back the onion, and this moon has been a final chapter. It has been like the residue, like the scraping of all of what's left over, and then the dismissal of it, the rewriting of the story. So the first card that was pulled was the circle card. And the circle here reminds us how we're all connected. It reminds us that we are all one. And this is such a big point in our collective shift as we are moving into a totally new timeline, and also as we are going into the season of great change. We can see that the season of letting go. There is a sense in this reading that the energy right now is a point that we'll look back at and very relative to 2020. Like, what was it like in 2020, right before the pandemic? Like, when you look back at that, is there any information that you can retrieve from that? It feels like right now is the preparation point of really getting clear and sturdy within yourself. I'm going to read a little bit from the book here. It says unification, interconnectedness, and a sense of continuum is what this card implies. The circle reminds us we are all one, dancers in the unified, continuous, inclusive circle. This card reminds us of the cycles of life and the evolving self, ever-changing and always connected. Human, spirit, nature, the cosmos, all intrinsically connected. When the circle appears, it reminds you that you are connected to everything and everyone, including spirit. When the circle comes as your medicine, you're meant to come to an understanding of the importance of decay and letting go, the importance of dying to an old form and being reborn anew. If you are faced with the challenge of loss or disappointment, remember this. In the circle of life, nothing is ever wasted. Love will seek itself again. Prosperity will come from a new idea or opportunity. And spirit always waits for you to find your place in the dance again. So there's a feeling of almost like maybe for some, it's like a deja vu, like, haven't I been in this place before? And for others, it's like completion, like I'm finally letting go of something that may have been a very long cycle, long karmic cycle for you in your life, and, probably very likely ancestral. The following cards that we received were cancel, clear, delete, and vacuum away fear. And sitting right in between these cards is the Ponopono, the immeasurable power of the heart way. And this is sending the message of being reminded that we may feel possibly a little lost, a little disoriented, especially with Mercury in retrograde. We've got almost most of the planets in retrograde. I think we have about 6 or 7 planets in retrograde right now, which means that everything is uprooted and reorganizing, and we may feel unsure and inconsistent and like unable to get as clear as we would like to be. But this is actually the process of getting clear. It's just like when I think in terms of, sorry, I'm cooking beans in there, and so my crock pot's going off. Thank you, crock pot. It's like taking this is a kind of a dramatic analogy, but taking a leaf blower into your home and just like blowing everything around. But what you're doing is you're like unearthing stuff and you're getting things out of their typical place. And then you have to separate the waste from the nutrition, as one of my dear friends would say. And then you get to reorganize and you find, you know what, that actually didn't, that really didn't fit there. And I didn't even realize that was still there. And do I get joy out of this thing anymore? That's what the energy is presenting right now. And I'm going to speak a little bit from this Ponopono card because it sits in the very middle of the reading, just as the heart. Just as in Kabbalah, as Tiferet, the heart center. It is the way of knowing, and it is the way of change. It's the way of true, lasting change, and it's the way of time. Time actually is created through the heart field. The heart has the power to heal in a way that the mind cannot understand. Do not allow your mind to distract or frighten you. You are a beautiful child of the universe, and divine love lives within your heart. A willing heart is all you need to transform any situation that is troubling you. Recognizing this power does not evoke feelings of pressure or anxiety, but of peace and joy. Lightness of heart and relief of mind are here for you now. This should have multiple applications for you. In the reading itself, it comes back to this circling back around, like it is a collective initiation point, which means that they're individual initiation points, very similar to what happened in 2020. How will you arise to the occasion? What will you do differently? Will you do something differently? The greatest concern is the power of fear to influence us and break the connection from source to the self, to the body. Because when the fear centers of the brain get activated, we no longer have access to the parts of the brain that think more rationally, as well as to like the frontal lobes, the neocortex, which is how we actually create this bridge, or it is rather the mechanisms, the computing systems that are connected to the bridge between heaven and earth, the Antakranta bridge. And looking back, 3 years ago may reveal to you some very important information about yourself, about your tendencies, your triggers, your fears, as well as your strengths and levels of leadership too arise with this. So cancel, clear, delete. Use only positive words and thoughts as they're rapidly manifesting into form. We are aligning and creating, co-manifesting a new timeline. We do not wish to relive the timeline of 2020. And the way that we respond right now in our day-to-day life is going to create whatever this new reality is for us. And you can even go back into the past and say, cancel, clear, delete, I take that back, retrieve your power from anywhere you have used words to disempower yourself, to disempower others, as well as the collective. And to call upon the archangels, particularly Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, Michael being the protector of humanity, the right hand of God. Anytime that you feel the fear, the visceral fear coming on, call in that force of God, call in that force of creation, of goodness, and of divine will to be there with you as a protector, as a guide, as a supporter. So that you are able to make this transition from a very fear-based and fear-influenced society and consciousness. It is a collective consciousness that many people are still embraced by. How do you remove yourself from that if we are to go through another test of great proportions that will hit on those triggers? How much do you truly, truly trust in your connection with Source and your intuition? Calling on Archangel Michael, Raphael heals the emotions and helps to protect our heart and protect us emotionally, because there are vices, there are systems that know how this works and how to manipulate people through fear-based control. This is the reality that we live in and has gotten very highlighted since the pandemic. So be vigilant. Be very vigilant with what you are consuming and where it's coming from. Always asking, what's the motivation behind it? Look for the motivation. Follow the money. Ask for these assistants of the divine to be with you, to protect you, to hold you, to heal you from any fear-based energy in your surroundings, any situation, anything in the future, anything in the past. And ask for that for everyone involved too, so that we become not so self-absorbed, but to include all of humanity in our heart and our thoughts and prayers. Let's see if there's anything else in this message that wants to be shared. Through the use of human free will, we have at times moved away from what is in the divine plan, stumbled on the path, and become ensnared in terrible suffering and frightening delusion. And this can become contagious and infect other souls with the poison of hate, anger, and fear, further separating our human collective from the beautiful grace that the divine has intended for us. Spirit dwells in your heart as a healing power and wisdom, which tenderly alleviates suffering, liberating the body, mind, and soul. This is the immeasurable power of the heart way. And in the Hawaiian tradition from which it emerges, it is known as Ho'oponopono, or to set things right. We can see just through media coverage that there has been incredible suffering in Hawaii. These cards, this particular card at least, comes from Hawaii, and it feels significant that we're watching this being played out there, which, if you are vetting your resources, you are looking at motivations, and you are allowing all information to come in, particularly censored information. We should be able to have all of the information and make our own personal assessment according to our intuition. There's foul play. There is a lot of dark structures that have been a part of these fires in Maui, and essentially creating coordinated disasters for the benefit of profit and other nefarious reasons. There are conspiracies in the world that are true, and whether you're open to that or not, I don't think that turning away from the suffering of Maui or the fires or what is happening there on a much deeper level should be obscured, should be overlooked. That is a reflection of something happening in the collective. It is a reflection of part of the enactment of some of the shadow. So let's continue to allow the cards to share. There is this Mayan card here. This was a new one that I have not worked with yet. And it's a story of one of the Mayan goddesses who she gave birth, and it was an embarrassment to the family. It was out of wedlock, and they decapitated her and they killed the child. So this card here, what it represents is that this is a time in our life when we may feel broken. We may feel the broken pieces in the patriarchal system. It has pushed us to our limits, and we feel unable to continue for fear of community or social reprisals. This card represents that moment when you feel that the love and care of the mother has disappeared and left you orphaned. You feel the depths of loneliness, isolation, sadness, disappointment, and fear. This is a time to allow yourself to experience your emotions. The healing will come. So it's a very heavy card there. There are pieces that are moving in our life that are death pieces. We are coming to completion with certain aspects of our self identities and societal structures that are leaving so that the new ones can rise, so that we can make space for something new. And it is in the fall season that's what occurs. We're not quite in fall yet in Chinese medicine. We're in late summer. And this is the time of preparation, just a little different from the preparation of fall. Still considering what projects from the summer need to be tied up and how to even digest the emotions, digest the memories of the summer, digest the change. This is a time when our chi is optimized for our stomach and our spleen, which is about digestion as well as our life force, our blood, cleaning our blood. So where are we receiving our nutrition? Really looking at your resources. Like, again, I just want to highlight, be very mindful of media. It's a propaganda machine. Again, if you follow the money trail, you'll see that these are not altruistic sources. They are being paid by certain people to be influenced. So you should be very guarded in where you are receiving your nourishment, receiving information, teachings, including me. Like I 100% am behind people doing the research and vetting and really filling into the source of what they are being fed. And that goes for school systems, that goes for music, that goes for food, that goes for air, water, all of the resources that we need to live, as well as the ones that we don't really need to live, but the ones that are common and common and also endorsed, encouraged, expected. So evaluate. This is Mercury retrograde. It's all about reevaluation, reconsideration. It's your nervous system, so it's reprogramming the interface between the spirit and the body, and really listening to that, listening to your nervous system. What are those things? What are the triggers? And how can you be with them? Can you discern between fear, which fear is actually when we do not feel God with us, when we do not feel safe from just like the very core of our being, because we have forgot that we are connected always. And then what's the difference in wisdom? Because those are two very different things. Fear and wisdom are not the same thing, and they have a different way of presenting in the body and the emotional field. And discerning wisdom will tell you when something is not in alignment. Fear will deceive you and tell you stories about something that aren't true. So you have to really work on that, and that was a test in 2020, is where do your fears lie? Have you been willing to really face those and be with them and to understand them, so that you no longer are influenced by your own fears and by collective fears, but so you can remain within yourself and within your body, so you can listen. Because the way that we receive that information, that intuitive information, is through our digestive system, or rather through our solar plexus. That's where the entry point for emotions, energy and motion, which just means information, comes into the body. That's like the receiving component or mechanism. And if we have unhealed experiences through the personality, then we will have a trigger to the feeling. It will trigger us back because there's parts of our brain that do not separate past and future. It just knows I feel it now. So it will take you right back into as if it were what has already happened. So you have to be able to feel what is going on in your own body and understand the difference between when you have that engagement of the system that goes, oh, we're not doing this again. And you go, okay, I recognize this. What is this? And be able to stay in the conscious thought process. It's not even a thought process. The conscious coherence, because there is wisdom that comes from the higher self. Wisdom does not come from the brain. It comes from a coherence between gut, heart, head, spirit. All of that to say, we've got a little bit more in this reading. The honesty card came forward, as well as the success card right here next to the heavy card that was about things falling apart and feeling alone. And essentially it's like dark night of the soul. This could feel like a dark night of the spirit if you've already been through a dark night of the soul. And we have to be willing to be honest with ourselves and willing to be honest with one another. And that takes an incredible amount of strength and bravery, particularly with what this card was implying about you may be ostracized, you may be censored, you may be stoned. There could be a lot of consequences for being honest, but I can't always expect the truth from others, but I can expect it from myself. And on the other side of this spread, we have success. So on the left-hand side, we have the cards that are about being willing to face our fears and our darkness with honesty. And then on the other side of this reading, it's such a beautiful reading. The other side is success. I know that there is no greater goal than love. So when we speak honestly, when we see honestly, we do so because we love. We don't do so to demand someone else to believe the way that we believe. But because I love you so much, I will not allow you to live in an illusion. I will not sponsor your illusion. I will not give in to the illusion because of what that may mean about how I'm viewed. I'm willing to give up my identity of being someone so that you can be free. I know that there is no greater goal than love. And next to the success card was the Lemuria card. It says creating heaven on earth, and it's happening. And I can't stress enough how true that is, and we are seeing it in small little pockets and in little ways. And even if you are in that precipice, that dark space, or even like the feeling of apathy and indifference and the heavy feelings of aloneness and despair, that it is in these deepest, darkest places that we emerge into our highest, greatest forms. And we have to ascend into the caverns and go through the hero's journey in order to scale and to climb the mountain and to reach the peak. I'm going to read a little bit of this Lemuria card here in a minute. But I want to first share the card that sits in between the two. It's the Council of Light. It's divine orchestration, the helpers of the subtle realm. Y'all, there is so much help. There is so much help available here for us, just waiting. They will not interfere because we have free will. They're just waiting. They're waiting for your requests. They're waiting for your offer. So don't hesitate. Use all of the resources You know, if that's something new to you, maybe it's time to get to know some of these other saints and aspects of the divine, these angels and ascended masters that are here because they know there is no greater goal than love. And they're here to serve humanity, particularly right now in this evolutionary jump. There is a great deal of influence trying to pull us towards this timeline of like AI and like just an overlord structure, control, slavery, depression, oppression. But the natural timeline, the one that's not an overlay, the more that we are polarizing ourselves to that and not allowing the fear to pull us over into this false overlay, the more that we return to the memory of who we are, of what we are, this Lemurian memory. And you know, Hawaii is one of the last living terrestrial places that is encoded with the Lemurian information. So there's just something so very metaphorical about what's happening on Maui. And if we are able to be honest enough and willing enough to look at our own shadows, to see the shadow of humanity that is implied, then we can be liberated from the imposing overlay of the system, what we would call the matrix. It's easy to get overwhelmed by the state of affairs on the planet right now. But you are being encouraged to keep holding the clear vision of the future. It's closer than you think. You may be guided to hold the frequency of Lemuria in your own community, family, workplace, or within yourself. Know that it is possible, and while at times it may feel like you are alone, you are truly not. There are hundreds of thousands who hold the codes of this ancient lost land, and even Lemuria crystals that hold the codes of remembering that are beginning to rise all over the planet. And so it is, and so it shall be. This is true. There are many people I'm witnessing that are like starting to leave the old structures, their jobs, and these situations. I mean, they're huge, huge points of initiation that it's so incredible to see these people who are stepping out in their faith and incredible bravery, resiliency, and authenticity. And to know that we are building something that's new and pure and lasting and good and holy and innocent. And I encourage those of you that have had that placed on your heart to gather in community and to do things that are healing and supportive and kind and thoughtful. To do that. That's what this is about. This isn't about fighting. It's not about fighting. It's about surrendering to our natural being. And that is one of compassion, of love, of inclusivity and consideration, honesty and integrity. Such beautiful, powerful medicine. Thank you for all of you who show up. Please like, subscribe, share, anyone that might benefit from receiving this. And thank you for being here to receive this message. It's with deep gratitude. Oh, I hope that this message actually was transmitted and my voice was heard, because that was a little heartbreaking when it didn't happen the first time, but perhaps it was because this was the message that actually needed to be served. So much love for you. Many blessings on this full moon. Until we meet again. Keep it pure and stay simple. Pura vida.